If you've been researching estate planning at all, you've probably come across the term living will and thought, wait, isn't that the same thing as a living trust? Actually, no, they're completely different documents. And honestly, a living will might be one of the most important documents you never knew you needed. I'm gonna break down exactly what a living will is, why it's critical for protecting your family from having to make impossible decisions during the worst moments of their lives, and what actually needs to be in one. And here's what most people don't realize. Without a living will, if you're in a coma or on life support, your family could end up in court fighting over what you would have wanted. I've seen it tear families apart. I'll even show you the key provisions you need to include so your wishes are crystal clear and legally enforceable, so your loved ones never have to guess what you would want. So if you care about protecting your family from that kind of heartbreak and conflict, stay with me. This might be the most important few minutes you spend on estate planning. Let's start with the basics. What is a living will? Living will is a legal document that speaks for you and tells your family and your doctors what kind of medical treatment you want or do not want if you become incapacitated and cannot speak for yourself. Here's why this matters. Imagine you're in a serious car accident and you're on life support. You can't communicate. You can't tell anyone what you want. Without a living will, your family has to make those decisions for you, and they might not agree. Your spouse might think you'd want to stay on life support as long as there's any chance of recovery. Your adult children might think you wouldn't want to live that way at all. And suddenly, your family is fighting in a hospital room during the worst moment in their lives. A living will prevents that. It's a document that you create now while you're healthy and clear-headed. It says exactly what you would want in those situations. Now, here's something important. A living will is different from a healthcare power of attorney. A healthcare power of attorney appoints someone to make medical decisions for you. A living will tells everyone what decisions to make, regardless of what they might think. Sometimes you need both. So here's the lesson. A living will isn't about what happens after you die. It's about what happens if you're still alive, cannot speak for yourself. It's your voice when you cannot use it. Now that you understand what a living will is, let's talk about what actually needs to be in one. The first provision is about life-sustaining treatment. This is where you decide whether you want things like ventilation, feeding tubes, or treatments that keep you alive when there's no real hope of recovery. Some people want everything possible done. Others don't want to be kept alive at all. There's no right or wrong answer. It is your choice. Second provision is about palliative care. This is care that is designed to keep you comfortable and alleviate symptoms when there's no treatment available to actually make you better. Most people say yes to this because it's about reducing suffering, not about prolonging life artificially. Third provision is about pain management. Do you want to receive medications to manage pain, even if those medications might shorten your life? Again, this is a personal decision, but it needs to be documented. And finally, there's organ donation. Interestingly, organ donation shows up in almost every estate planning document. Your living will, your healthcare power of attorney, sometimes even in your regular will, and it's on your driver's license in most states. The reason is simple. You really want to make sure your wishes about your organ donations are clear. So here's what you need to remember. Your living will should cover life-sustaining treatment, palliative care, pain management, and organ donation. These 4 provisions are going to give your family clear direction about what you want. Now, let's talk about why a living will is so critical, especially if you're a parent. First, if you don't have a living will and something happens to you, your family will be making medical decisions in the dark. They'll be guessing what you would want. And if they disagree, which happens more than you think, they could end up in court fighting over your care while you're lying in a hospital bed. I've seen families torn apart by this. Siblings who stop speaking to each other, spouses who resent their in-laws, all because there was no clear direction about what the person would have wanted. Second, without a living will, the wrong person might end up making decisions for you. If you're not married, the hospital might default to your parents or your adult children. But what if you don't want them making those decisions? What if you'd rather have your best friend or your sibling? Without a healthcare power of attorney and a living will, you have no control over that. And here's something that most people don't think about. Your views on end-of-life care might change as you get older. What you want in your 20s might be very different from what you want in your 50s or 60s. That's why you need to review and update your living will every few years, just like every other estate planning document. Let me give you an example. Maybe when you're young and healthy, you think, do everything possible to keep me alive. But after you've watched a loved one suffer on life support for months with no hope of recovery, your perspective might change. You might decide you don't want that for yourself or your family. The point is this: a living will gives you control over your medical care when you can't speak for yourself. It protects your family from having to make impossible decisions. And it ensures your wishes are honored no matter what happens. else. So here's the bottom line. A living will is one of the most important documents in your estate plan. Most people don't have it. If you care about protecting your family from conflict and making sure your wishes are honored, then you need to get this done. Now, if you don't have a living will yet, or if you're not sure whether your current estate plan includes one, I'd love to review your situation and make sure you're fully protected. Book a discovery call with me. We'll talk about your family, your concerns, and what documents you need in place to have complete peace of mind. There's a link in the description below to schedule that call. If you want to learn more about other healthcare documents you need, like a healthcare power of attorney and why it works together with your living will, click here and I'll show you exactly how to make sure your family never has to guess what you might want. I'll see you on the other side.